Good evening, everybody. We're just going to give it a few minutes just for people to join the webinar. So we'll start shortly. Okay, I think we're good to go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the AERO South Africa webinar in conjunction with Safety First Aviator. It's entitled COVID-19's Impact on Getting Back to Flying, IMC to VFR. My name is Neil Piper, the Head of Content for Messi Frankfurt, South Africa, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce Ari Reynolds, a Portfolio Director of Messi Frankfurt, South Africa. And she's also the show director of AERO South Africa. And she's just going to address you tonight. I know she's got some news that she wants to share. So Ari, over to you.
Thanks, Neil. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 5th AERO South Africa and Safety First Aviator webinar. As Neil mentioned, my name is Ari Reynolds, and I'm the show director for AERO South Africa. COVID-19 has now been with us for more than a year, and we're all aware of how it has changed the landscape of conducting business and the impact it has had on our events. This said, it is with an extremely heavy heart tonight that I share the news that this year's AERO South Africa trade show has been postponed to July 2022. We consulted with various stakeholders and exhibitors before making this decision, but we do feel that this postponement is in the best interest for the event, especially taking into consideration the global unpredictability around restrictions, lockdowns, and international travel constraints. It is of utmost importance to us to ensure the safety of staff and the event exhibitors and visitors. But we are still committed to staying connected to this industry through the webinar series and the AERO South Africa virtual marketplace. This platform will still be active until the end of August this year, and tonight's webinar will be available to view on demand on this platform from tomorrow. If you have not yet registered as a visitor on the virtual marketplace, please visit virtual aerosouthafrica.co.za. That's virtual aerosouthafrica.co.za and complete the online registration form. There's no cost for visitors to register. Should you be interested in booking a virtual stand on this platform for your business, please feel free to leave a message in the chat function and we'll get back to you with more information. And now, definitely enough from me, over to Neil to kickstart tonight's session, because that's why we're all here.
Ari, thank you for that. And although it is sad for this year, it's something to look forward to for next year. And then also just to remind everybody, I think head to the platform that Ari's spoken about. All of the previous webinars are there. We've had some amazing discussions over the last few months. The panel that we've had have always been exceptional, and the content there will help you guys. So if you've got some time, please head to the website and just enjoy the webinars that we've already had, and look out in the press for the webinars that are still to come.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's now my pleasure to introduce Franz Smit of Pilot Insure, who will moderate the webinar tonight and will formally introduce all our speakers. Franz is the founder and MD of Pilot Insure, a specialist and boutique advice firm focusing on investments and risk cover for pilots. He's a big supporter of general aviation. He's a SAPFA board member and has a lifelong passion for aviation. With a decade of experience in the financial services field, he's uniquely positioned to help form insights into general aviation. Franz is one of the good guys, and with his sense of humor and general outlook on life, he will keep things lighthearted and entertaining tonight for us all. And Franz, we're delighted to have you again tonight. So thank you for making the time, and over to you.
Hey Neil, thanks. Thank you very much again for the lacquer intro. Welcome everyone. Another one, I think this is number 5 that we're doing of the Safety First Aviators with the guys from MayDay-SA, and this is amazing. Sorry about that news. I mean, I know it's terrible. We were all looking forward, to the big event. I know the last one, which I think was also the first one you guys did, was such a massive success. I remember walking around having massive FOMO because we didn't have a stand there. Yeah, we're definitely taking up all the stand space we can get on the next one for sure. Guys, okay, welcome everyone for tuning in, for watching. I think this is again an amazing platform for all of us just to get together, discuss what's going on in aviation, discuss what's happening with ideas around safety. We're very fortunate to ultimately get thought leaders together in the space of aviation. Everyone in this panel is heavily involved in aviation. Every single person lives, eats, breathes aviation, and I think that's very special for us for everyone to give their time. And I mean, as you guys know, Neil and Annelie, to get everyone together for 2-3 hours at the same spot proves to be nearly impossible. But anyway, before we start, guys, thanks for joining. As per normal, bit of housekeeping. We Q&A session at the end. Ask all your questions you have as we go along. We always answer them. We try and get to absolutely as many of them as possible. Some of them gets answered during the time, but we try and keep all the questions right to the end. Fascinating topics tonight. Changing it up a little bit from the other ones we've had. This discussion is really about IMC to VFR, and it's really about us coming from an extremely bad space, not just in aviation, but I think all of us, personally, in some way, shape, or form, and back, into the proverbial light. So back into, normality. And I think for a lot of us, it's about hanging on to those lessons we've learned, hanging on to, especially, and I don't mean to jump around, but especially the spate of incidents and accidents we've had over the last couple of weeks. Some extremely sad stuff. I don't necessarily like talking about it, but it is definitely worth mentioning. So how do we take those messages and those lessons, hold on to them, take them forward into our VFR conditions? And how more fitting for us to start with Lauren from SA Weather Services. Lauren, thanks again for joining us. Now, guys, I'm sure Lauren needs very little introduction. Lauren's been for years and years and years and years. She's been the weather person helping us at big GA events, making sure that we 100% know what's up and coming with the weather. She's been an integral part of it. She just knows a hell of a lot about weather and systems. And Lauren, thanks for sharing your knowledge, and I really look forward to seeing what you've got in store for us.
Yes, thank you for that introduction, Franz, and thank you to everyone as well. I'm going to share my screen quickly. Okay. Yes, once again, thank you so much for the privilege to be here with everyone tonight. Yeah. Let's just get this thing. So we've had an interesting year weather-wise so far. Good, some rainfall accumulations for January and February, especially for those central and northeastern parts of the country, which means it's been a good year so far. Our seasonal outlook as well is still on par, and we're looking at a normal rainfall season. So yes, IMC to VMC, it is quite important to be able to know what is the in-between weather and what is IMC weather conditions and what is your VMC conditions, especially before takeoff, while you are en route and on landing. So VMC conditions, let's have a look at what those would be. So you will find yourself in VMC if you have 1,500 meters clearing horizontally and 1,000 feet vertically from your cloud, and then as well as 5 kilometers in vertical visibility, and that is when you are 10,000 feet below, and then if you're above 10,000 feet, 8 kilometers and more is then essential for you to be in VMC conditions. Also a reminder that you should know that inside control zones that the rules might differ. So when you do find yourself in IMC, how do you recover? So you do have your low visibility procedures to fall back on. They do exist for you. It's not there to be a pain. Please know them, be familiar with them. It's all in duty to reduce risk if it's safety risk or anything like, for example, your runway excursions. Some tips maybe to keep in your pocket so that you are familiar with what to do when you are in these conditions, and always study the weather, definitely before takeoff, and try and get an update before landing. I'd like to link these conditions with each other, the outside perspective with a forecast, a TAF, as well as your metas. So a quick thing just to remind you guys on about is your species criteria. What is a species? It's a meta that gets sent out, a special air report, according to those criteria listed in front of everyone there. So these gets issued when your weather changes significantly. So cloud base is below 1,500 feet, and your visibility starts decreasing from 1,000 feet as well. So if we have our observations as indicated in those metas down below in the slide of Gauteng, it's typical fair weather conditions, nice and scattered conditions at a ceiling of 3,000 to 3,500 feet. But your forecast is forecasting CVs. So you have Charlie Bravos in the vicinity that could possibly be developing, but there's not being reported yet. So this is a typical scenario of, is this VMC? Is this IMC? Is that tempo, that 30% chance, is it going to happen? So this is where I think you as a pilot should know your resources, phone in if you are unfamiliar with that decision. You have satellite imagery to look at as well. And from my perspective, if you would phone in, I would rather say wait it out, because you're already an hour into your forecast for that development of those CVs in the vicinity that could appear. You're still dealing with downdrafts that you could feel from your CVs that could affect you. You can have low-level shear that you could also still be affected, even though you are in VMC conditions. So there are still little hazards that still exist in VMC conditions that you should be aware of. Where can you find your forecasts? At your aviation website under your observation tab there. You can even familiarize yourself with some radar. It's very handy in those isolated CV conditions where it's scattered. Satellite as well, even webcams, that's quite handy, especially for that northeastern escarpment. They're now sprayed to see if those cloud spaces are lifting or if the fog is starting to roll in. Another familiar place that you can find your forecasts and observations are Windy TV. You can also view webcams through Windy. Also, you can do a comparison of your models, and you can see your low cloud forecasts as well as satellite imagery is available for you there again. Yeah, and that's all from my side. Thank you so much for your time, and yeah, any questions are welcome.
Excellent. Thanks, Lauren. Okay, so I'm sure we're going to have some questions hopefully towards the end, so stick around for that. But it's great. Thank you for taking us back to, you know, the grassroots, just what is IMC, what's VFR. You know, that's 100% pertaining to the weather. So that's perfectly where you fit in. Okay, so next up we've got Ari Levien. Now Ari's representing MayDay-SA, but Ari is a GA pilot, a lifelong GA pilot, and he's actually been part of MayDay-SA since 2018. So he's got a really good idea what's going on there, and I'm sure it's helped a lot of people. Ari, welcome.
Thanks very much, Franz. It's really great to be here, and hopefully there'll be something useful from my presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. So give us an overview. What are you talking to us about tonight?
So tonight I'm going to be talking about self-care, and if I can persuade the computer to share the screen, everybody should be able to see.
Perfect, got you.
We're going to be talking about self-care, and the usual, I'm sure by now, this being the 5th presentation, everybody should remember who MayDay are, but for those who haven't joined previous events, we are a peer support organization, and we are here to help anybody connected with aviation. I've got the contact details on the screen, and please feel free to use them. But on to the main topic for tonight. Self-care is something that, as pilots, ATCs, and other people connected with aviation, most of us have received absolutely no training in. And for those of us type A control freaks, we often don't believe that this sort of thing is necessary or applies to us. And I just want to tell you that you're wrong. It is very necessary, and it is important for everyone. This is something that is being revisited in all sorts of places. Our medical colleagues are applying it to themselves, and it is something that I think that it really is worth everybody's time to do some of this and understand how this can help you. It's definitely not just for pandemics. So to get started, I'm going to talk to the self-care aspects that have been identified by ICAO, and the fact that this very staid, conservative group gives credence to the whole concept of self-care should add some substance to the argument that this stuff actually works, and there is benefit to all of us to think about this and take part in it. Most of us, you'll see when we look at the various aspects, do some or more of these things. Some of it may seem a little bit new age. I challenge you to give it a try. Some of these things can make a really big difference, and we've all been through a very challenging time over the last year, and unfortunately, I think we all know that we're not out of the woods on this yet. So it's going to take some time, but I'm sure we'll all get there. So the first aspect that I want to talk about is giving to others. And this is something that is easier said than done. And what I'm challenging everybody to try and do is to do something to make a difference to people or to organizations that make a difference to you. Volunteer at a school or at a church or a sports club, anything like that, something that you feel is going to be a valuable use of your time and is going to be a contribution that you can make to others. It's a really useful output if you have talents that you're not really exercising any other way, and you can use this time to strengthen bonds with friends or family. One of the really good examples that I've seen is helping a relative with some DIY. Spend some time with family members or other people in your COVID bubble if you are doing that, and make a difference there. The second aspect is being mindful, and this is something that lots of people think is very dubious, and it's something that we desperately need in our aviation toolkit. Pilots have to fly the aeroplane. Aviation professionals all use mindfulness skills every day. So try taking them out of the work environment. In much the same way as military pilots often chair fly before a mission, try to bring your focus and awareness into non-aviation tasks. It's something that gets better with practice, just like so many other things. Write things down. For those who saw Keith's excellent presentation last time, you would have remembered that in many of the suggestions for resilience, the challenge is to write things down. Writing things down frees your mind from remembering them, and it allows your mind to synthesize and work on things rather than just focusing on them for the instant. Meditation is something that a lot of people report significant benefits from, and it can have physical and mental benefits with as little as a 5-minute meditation session. There are lots of methods which you can find on the internet, and the one very easy skill which I'm going to talk about now is about breathing, believe it or not. This is not something that we all master when we come out of the womb, believe it. But what I'm talking about is something called box breathing. It's also known as tactical breathing, square breathing, yoga breathing, and lots of other names. And I'm sure a lot of people watching have heard of this, and I just would like to remind those people, and for everybody else, this is a very easy thing that you can do. Breathing and blinking are two autonomic reflexes that all of us can override. So our body does them by default, but if we concentrate, we can override them. Some people can wiggle their ears, but we can all change how we breathe. The old saying about taking a deep breath to calm down is actually based on medical science. When we get nervous or excited or scared, we tend to breathe more rapidly and shallowly. And I'm sure the other presenters this evening know exactly what I'm talking about. If we take charge of our breathing, we can to a certain extent limit the emotional overload and take some control. And as you can see from the slide, this is not a particularly difficult process. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and hold for 4 seconds before starting the cycle again. Very simple, very easy, and it can make a big difference in a very short time. It's a very simple technique, and it's taught to a lot of the highest stress professions. Special forces teams know this intimately, astronauts and preschool teachers. Most people learn this technique quickly, and it's sometimes used as the basis of many meditation techniques. And hopefully this is something that everyone here can make very easy use of without getting too wired into the whys and wherefores of this. Just 1 or 2 minutes of this exercise can change your emotional state. Give it a try. The next step in self-care is much easier outside of pandemics, and that's to connect socially with others. I think we all recognize that humans are social creatures, and even us introverts need to spend time with our friends and our family. It's difficult to do in the current circumstances, but it really is important. And I think I'd just like to caution everybody, please, this disease is real and we do still need to pay some attention, but make the effort to stay in touch with friends and family. Do it responsibly and stay safe there. Now, you all know what the next one's going to be, and that is exercise. Exercise has well-proven physical benefits, but the powerful psychological lift is often not mentioned. My AME has blackmailed me to suggest that everybody associated with aviation should be exercising a minimum of 2.5 hours a week, but every little bit helps. I think something as simple as parking on the far side of a parking lot and walking a little bit of extra distance is enough to make a difference. What's absolutely key with the exercise is to sustain it. Don't start off enthusiastically, injure yourself and stop. Do something small and work up and keep doing it. I do hope that the AMEs are listening and taking note of that, and that should get me out of jail free with the next medical, but you never know. Lastly, for this evening, a key part of self-care is to keep learning. And I think most of us have got hobbies, but challenge yourself, try something new, and try and spend time each week doing something that is not related to what you do every day in your job. If your activity provides time for mindfulness and exercise, so much so the better. But whatever sort of hobby you can find that can engage you is a great start. And those are the mindfulness techniques I wanted to share with you this evening. I'm going to leave you with the MayDay contact details. And just a reminder, if you're feeling under pressure, if you feel that you need somebody to talk to, please give us a call.
Great, thanks, Ari. Yeah, I think it's amazing, and it's small things. I know when you start talking about breathing and keeping your breath in for 4 seconds and out for 4 seconds, and I think I speak for most of the men when I say it immediately makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but yeah, that's super important. I mean, I was doing it a couple of times and I feel like actually taking a nap now. So I don't know if that was quite what I was supposed to do. But...
Yeah, it's maybe not something you should do when you're doing your final approach checks. Let's just put it that way.
Absolutely. Ari, cool. Thank you very much, man. I think there's some real good value in, sometimes just taking a step back and looking at everything. Like you said, the hobbies, the things you do, there's a lot of joy in everything else around us, that we can take in. And I think just the way I feel, helping other people just automatically makes you feel happy and like a better person. I think that's maybe the message.
Absolutely. And I think it's also really important for everybody to understand. I don't think anybody has lived through what we're going through now since the Spanish flu of 1918. This is a big change to everything we're used to. So slow down and look after yourself, because you can't look after others unless you're looking after yourself as well.
Yeah, it's like the classic in the in the briefing to PAX before taking off. First put your mask on before you help others. It's classic. And tell me, before we leave you, just would you mind giving us a brief overview of MayDay-SA again, just for the couple of new people who maybe haven't heard of it before? It's just, for me, it's such an amazing project. I've definitely gotten a lot of help from MayDay-SA in the past. So maybe if you don't mind, Ari, just maybe 1 minute on MayDay-SA. How do you guys work? How do you operate? What your actual purpose is, and who do you want to speak to and who can speak to you?
So MayDay is an organization of aviation related people. So they're pilots, general aviation, airline, military. There are air traffic controllers. There are all sorts of people who are volunteering their time to assist people who are part of the aviation community or their friends or family who are dealing with any sort of stress or any sort of crisis. If you need to talk to somebody and you're not sure who, you're welcome to talk to us. You can contact us through any of the mechanisms that were on that slide. There is a website, which if you search, you will find. Just search for MayDay-SA. contact us, and we are confidential. We do not have a hotline to CAA or to your AME. And it's all people who have got some understanding of the pressures of aviation.
And of life.
And of life.
Oh.
We've dealt with everything from, unfortunately, post-accident and post-incident counseling, through to financial stress, through substance abuse, through job loss, loss of license, loss of medical. But we're a bunch of people who really would just like to be of assistance. So if you need help, call us.
Yeah, and I think, just from my part, I think most people think you only need help once it's something catastrophic and something huge, but I think we all need help along the way, even if it's, seemingly smaller things, seemingly smaller events, because I feel it all builds up, that Swiss cheese effect. So I don't know. I just feel like if you're going through some stress and some issues and some challenges and you're not sure how to cope, rather speak to someone. MayDay-SA is there. Like Ari said, there's no lines to anyone. It's completely confidential. It's it's your peers. It's people, normal people just like you, that might at that stage just be at a bit of a better position in terms of clarity, but it's just normal people wanting to help you and guide you.
Absolutely. And I think there is in many cases a stigma with seeking help from a professional, whether that's a mental health professional or a medical professional or an attorney, depending on what sort of help you might need. And sometimes you're not sure that your friends are going to be able to understand what you're going through, especially if you are talking about something aviation related to somebody that isn't part of the aviation family, and it can make a real difference. So we're not out to change the world, but we are out to make sure that if somebody asks for help, they get it.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. I mean, I'm a big fan of MayDay-SA. Thanks for all the work you do, Ari, and the guys and your peers, etc., etc. I think it's amazing. It's absolutely fantastic. And thanks for joining us again. It's great to hear from you. Okay, so we unfortunately just got a message from Santjie saying that she couldn't make it. Electricity has gone out and issues with the generator. They can't get it back online. And no event's really complete without Santjie. But I see Cobus has put the spotlight on himself and put his mic on and everything. So Cobus, do you wanna hit us with an idea? What do you want to talk about?
Well, yeah, if I can get the screen up, and I think I got it, Franz.
Oh, you've got a presentation. Okay, brilliant.
Yeah, small steps. Ari, thanks. All I want to say there, remember in resilience, we spoke about slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And we always say that preventive self-care, mentorship, peer-to-peer programs beats reactive treatment. So thanks for that. Good evening, everybody, and welcome again with Safety First Aviator. It's so nice to have you guys here. A lot of familiar names, not faces. I wish it was faces. So from the last presentation in February, we spoke about the elements that created the perfect storm and the role it played, what COVID played, creating that perfect storm in aviation accidents. And the question we faced with is, how do we weather the storm? Lauren has showed us how we can weather the weather, but how do we weather the storm? So we discussed the mental well-being, a lot about that as well. And thanks, Ari, we spoke about well-being, mental wellness and self-care. And you explained it very nicely, what we can do. So in my opinion, this whole thing about mental well-being is a major underlying factor in the accidents we're having, not only in South Africa, but in the rest of the world. I think the effect of COVID is still being totally underestimated. So the problem is, how do you measure it and how do you confirm it? So when we go to how do we weather the storm, we spoke a lot about resilience already. Look at health, stress, anxiety, how we combat that, depression. And the big problem here is, and Wendy from MayDay has also made it very clear, resilience, you will never get resilience if you're not in a mental healthy state. So mental well-being is a major issue at the moment, I believe. And with MayDay, please guys, if there's anything, call them. So our theme tonight, and thanks Franz for the theme again, from IMC to VFR. It created quite a storm and I enjoyed that part. And I had to check with you. Are we ready to go back flying? Now, what we mean with IMC is COVID. And from stormy conditions into VFR, which is clear skies. But are we ready for it? The bottom line is it's your call. And don't think that anybody else is going to make that call for you. And we've already had so many accidents, and we really need to go out and try and find things and ways to prevent them from happening. Now, some of us have been lucky to go back flying, so they know what it's all about. I know Carl is here as well. He said, I remember he said to me, geez, you can't imagine how difficult you think it's going to be a breeze, but yeah, it's not easy. It's not so easy to start with everything. Another friend and colleague of mine, Michael Billy Port, also commented today this, but our egos, there's an issue there. There's our aircraft states, are they ready? So there's a lot of things we can talk about. What I want to do is discuss the thing clear for takeoff checklists. We have everything in an aircraft checklist to have a checklist. Check this, check that. Some people don't even, some have even got checklists for their cars. But pilots and checklists are like wings in air. The one doesn't work with the other one. So do we have checklists for ready for takeoff checklists before we go and fly? The answer is yes. And I found quite a few of them. I'd like to share them with them. I'm not going to discuss it in length, it's too much. But I would just like to share you before we get to engine start, read the checklist. Before that checklist, let's step back. So the aim of these checklists is to help us manage the transition from COVID, that's our IMC, to flying clear skies for safe and effective aviation operations. And that is why pilots anyway use checklists. Now, when we speak about the checklist, I think the first one, we mentioned it last month as well, is the compliance with your own safety cultures. My first checklist is this one, I'm safe. Everybody knows this, they've seen it before. Fair enough, that could be. But are you using that checklist? And if you haven't checked every item on the checklist, are we clear to fly? Are we clear to go out there and go fly? And the answer is no, and you should know that. It works the same as any aircraft checklist. What I also want to stress is when I show these checklists, please, it's for ATCs, Lauren, it's for you in the weather office, it's for everybody that's involved in aviation, in the whole industry, the regulator, you name it, it's there. ATCs, MayDays, all of us. So that was the easy one. Let me get to a more comprehensive ones. And again, yeah, I would like to stress, this is from IFALPA, the International Federation of Airline Pilots Association. Number one, IFALPA is the national or international voice of pilots, where ALPA, where we are, is the national voice of pilots. The airline thing there is a little bit misleading in the sense that it's for every pilot and it's for everybody. It's for the regulators, for everybody involved in the aviation industry. The whole entire aviation industry needs to be compliant before we're going to have success, before we're going to prevent accidents. A lot of people out there think it's only pilots causing accidents. To a certain extent, you go to the aircraft and then you see who's there behind the controls. Yeah, that's pilots. The day is going to come where there's an accident and there's no pilot. What then? Okay, we're not far from that, and I'm sure we'll get to that. What I want to do is just show you very quickly what's inside this checklist. It covers licensing, training, recency. There's everything, your documents, training and qualifications, tick box, tick box, tick box. Personal well-being and resilience, tested negative for COVID, cognitive, mentally, emotionally fit. Remember that? That is well-being. The mind, the body, the senses, and the emotions. You can see I'm going quite quick because it will take me 2 nights to go through this. Occupational health and safety. The COVID protocols alone and PPE training, personal breathing equipment. Maybe you don't have it on your Caravan or in your Cessna 170, but there's always some equipment that you should have, especially when it comes to COVID as well. Operational measures, aircraft operational mitigations. Now, we've spoken a lot about rusty pilots, rusty aircraft, and these aircraft have been standing, and so is the fuel, the hydraulics, and the oil. And we need to be very careful and aloof and make sure everything goes according to plan. unusual cargo. You might have unusual cargo now, like PPEs, which you never had. You must have sanitizer, you must have funny stuff. Sometimes, let me put it differently, some guys are even flying vaccines. So it's unusual cargo. So there's a lot of checklists in this. Also important is licensing the aircraft. Is the aircraft ready? Is it ready to go? If it looks like that, I don't know how that got here, but that's not the point for tonight. And then to conclude with the FALPA's part is the considerations for training. Are we qualified? Are you proficient? And very important, are you confident that you're able to properly perform as you're supposed to do? Then I found this one. It was actually done in 2020, 9th of May, and it's also by FALPA and scored by the ops group. There are various groups working in a FALPA. This is a manual. It's not only a checklist. It's quite lengthy. And again, I have this stuff. I'll give you my email address if you want it. It's for free. I'll ask you $10 or something shipping fees. But the bottom line, these information is available, and we need to use this information. And not only to look after ourselves, to look after our families, to look after our passengers, to look after the people below us. If you look on the right-hand side, there's 4 simple sections before we go flying. And this is a part I was talking about right now. During the flight, we understand those checklists. But again, you can also unsafe checklists the whole time. Have it out and use it. There's after back home. What are you going to do now? Downtime, maybe if you sleep in the hotel, or the charter guys will know what it's like. The airline guys know that very well. Things have changed and we have to adapt. And then checklists and tools. So this is quite a comprehensive one, and it is available for free. Another checklist I found was Cleared for Takeoff, for Pilot's Guide to Returning to Flying. Now, the name gave me a scare. It's the core aviation psychology. You know, pilots and psychologists don't work well together, but there are sometimes times that you have to reach out and use your resources. Good CRM. And it doesn't matter what you fly. If it's a UE, if it's a Baron, I think, or even Anker's balloons. It's available, the information is there for everybody. Now, Lauren, I'm sure you can benefit from it. I'm sure Franz, in your business, anything aviation will benefit from that. I'm going to go quite quick with this, getting your brain prepared. Now, remember, I mentioned the mental well-being is the brain, the body, emotions, and how we deal with other people, which I referred to as well. Now, there's a tick box. You don't have to read it. Right? If you look at one, put time aside for daily work, start reading work stuff, slowly get into the work scenario. Put the Will Smith away and now start reading maybe your procedures, things like that. Contact colleagues, phone people that you fly with and talk flying. Review documentation, aircraft documentation. Visualization is interesting. Very few of us do have simulators at home, but sit there and think, if I have an emergency, if I have an engine failure, what will I do? Visualization. Pilots especially have vivid imaginations. I know. So go through that and go through work. So you slowly just, I'm not saying bulldusting the brain, but organizing the brain, and then to put it into the mindset of going back to work. From IMC VFR. Yes, Franz.
I heard a funny one. I think it was last week, Tuesday or Wednesday, in the slow lounge in OWA, and there was 2 guys sitting there. The one guy was in uniform, and the other guy wasn't, but I could see they were flying for some airline, and they were talking about getting back into flying, and just I had to laugh, and then I joined in on the conversation, and the one guy said, you know, it was so strange because I sat in the cockpit and I knew what I had to do, but I just couldn't. My hands were dumb. Like I couldn't figure out where everything was anymore, you know? And I thought that's exactly what you're talking about, you know, take the 2 minutes, take the 5 minutes, you know, figure it out again. Maybe a bit of an extreme example. Maybe the guys were joking a little bit, but you know, that's exactly what it is.
No, thanks, Franz. It is so true. The mind is so far away from work, and we can discuss it in the question as well, the question that came up earlier as well, but is that this whole mindset to change it back into the cockpit is not an easy one. To change it back to work is not an easy one. Lauren's been at work all the time, very easy, hey, Lauren? But a lot of us haven't been to work, and just to get through the gate, I mean, what's the coach, it's not easy. There's a checklist, choose it, have a plan, and follow the plan. The body, Ari, we're going on your side. Sleep patterns. At the moment, we sleep from 8 at night or 8 in the morning, so I don't know how you guys sleep, but we have to get back into sleep routines as far as the work's concerned. Exercise routine, Ari said it all. That breathing routine, we used a lot in our flying as well when you have to help the G suit work. Healthy diet, regular meals. Again, now stop the takeaways and get your healthy meals and get it when you eat. Handling the feelings checklist. You see, there's checklists for everything. This is actually brilliant. There's the checklist, even made up in a little banner. Reflect on how you're feeling, talk to a partner, use pilot peer support if available. It is, it's MayDay. Are you seriously concerned? Notify your ops flight management. Maybe your flight ops management might be yourself if you're only flying in your own aircraft. A lot of checklists, and it just helps you to tick box everything you must do. Now, this is quite interesting, maintaining your relationships checklist. And this specifically goes more to the female pilots out there, women, the mothers. And not only the mothers, I'm sure the fathers also have the responsibility with the kids. Reflect on relationships and tell the children you're going to go back to work and what are the child care arrangements. So it's really thinking way outside the box. And help it out to tell the people what are the positives of you going back to work. You might be surprised that they're even glad to see you going back to work. I'm sure that's going to be the case. So that is very quick, the checklist. And before we start the engines, get it done. And before we get to the aircraft and do a before start checklist and do the things that we're so used to. And then we before start checklist and we go in the air and there we go. And then the whole time, keep your I'm safe checklist with you. And please, people, speak up if you're not happy with something. Just scientists also found this that said there's a red flag. Skills can deteriorate in 3 key areas through lack in use. Now, these 3 key areas, these 3 key areas are basically situation awareness, problem solving, decision making. Those are vital for flying. And if those are problem areas, better we discuss it. Only tip I can give you, make sure that your CRM refresh is up to date. And if you're unhappy about that, speak to somebody that can help you with it. Don't get to the aircraft and then start worrying how you're going to do it. So please, people, you've seen this before. Do not be afraid to reach out to a helping hand. Do not be afraid to be a helping hand. We're there, we're in it together. So let's do it safe, 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 and have effective, efficient, safe aviation operations. Are you ready? Remember, it's your call. You have to say, I'm ready. And you have to be truthful to yourself. You owe it to your family. You owe it to everybody below you when you fly. My old friend, Wilbur Wright, I always want to say Wilbur Smith. In flying, I've learned that carelessness and overconfidence are usually far more dangerous than deliberately accepting risks. So please remember it. For the youngsters out there, my son is one of them, a message to the wishful young. Guys, don't lose faith. Guys and girls, things will return to a new normal. Might not be the normal, might be much better. You guys most probably going to become captains much faster than what's happened in the past decades or 2. So with that, thanks so much, Franz. I appreciate the time. Thanks. I appreciate you listening to me. There is my email. If you need any information, I can help or ALPA can help. Please contact us. Don't be shy. Reach out. Thank you.
Thanks, Cobus. And guys, just so if you don't know, Cobus is a real CRM boffin. So, you know, if there's any CRM questions you have or courses you want to do, or you want him to put a course together for you guys, or, you know, anything like that, he's definitely your go-to guy. Cobus, you'll be happy to do stuff like that.
Of course, anytime.
Yeah, absolutely. And Cobus is, you know, been lifelong. I mean, you were SAA for, was it 20 years or something, Cobus?
Yeah, 20 years.
And then airline, and then was it Air Force before then?
Air Force 26 years, yes. So I know I don't look that old, but yes.
You were in Air Force for like a month or 2, eh?
Yeah, but heavy G's, that's it. That's why. Thank you, Franz.
Oh, brilliant stuff. Okay, guys, so we're going to go off the beaten track a little bit, just because, like I mentioned earlier, you know, Santjie can't make it just because she's got some issues with electricity at her house. She did quickly forward me a video that she wanted to play. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to play the video. But I'm going to play it for like 5 seconds and just check in with you guys if you can see, or if you can hear the audio, because sometimes we have a bit of an audio issue when we stream it this way. So just bear with us. Like I said, I'm going to share screen and then I'm going to let it play for a few seconds and see what we come up with.
It's showing no sound yet, Franz, that we just see. But play it. I think there might be sound later on.
No, there's there's sound already. So let me see if I can do one of these settings.
If you play the video, I can even, I'm not going to make like an aircraft, but I can just show you what the essence was. So I don't know if that will help.
I just want to, just give me 1 second. I just want to change one or two of these and let's see if it makes a difference. If it doesn't make a difference, then we just watch the video. I'm sure we'll get the gist of it.
Carl says that the audio is fine, Franz. Maybe it's just not us hearing it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me play it then.
Still good, Franz. But Lauren hears it. It's coming through, Franz.
We're estimating warm bars at time 0817, Zulu Sierra, Charlie.
Yeah, it's just very soft, Franz. Straight through, like Carl says. Can I take the audacity and just go through the video very quick? What it's all about. Nothing now, Franz. Franz, do you hear us?
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, it's very, very soft. I can hear nothing, but I see from the people listening, they can. It's very, very soft. And basically, what Santjie is trying to share with the video is that there are so many people getting lost and they don't know where they are. And this is where they just called Johannesburg Approach, for instance, said, "Listen, I'm unsure of position." And the guys helped them. What can you see? And I can see this. I can see this. What was so nice about this one, I remember it, as when the ATC asked the girl in the aircraft, with two females, of course, it's female here, and she asked, "Do you see a field like looks like in a coffin shape?" And she said yes, and this actually happened. And then she guided us. Then the ATC knew exactly where she was, and she guided her through giving a direction to steer, what to look out for, which frequencies to contact. And this is something that pilots must always remember. Use your resources, good CRM, and ask for help. Don't be shy to ask help. Pilots are never lost. They're just temporarily unsure of position, but it doesn't matter. The ATC can help you with that, if that helps at all, Franz.
Okay. I think that's a valid point. And I think that's a point we've been almost rehashing a lot. I think that maybe for the more senior guys, it may not be as much of a problem. But I know definitely for the junior guys and guys just getting into aviation, that's why the ATCs, etc., that's why they're there. That's their core function, in my opinion, is to help you, to help you get out of trouble and to help navigate you and show you the way. And I definitely, I don't know how you feel about this, Cobus. I mean, you're one of the probably most senior folks in aviation that I get to speak to every now and then, but there's no ways in hell that if you're going to ask for help, someone's going to hit you with a stick. Guys will respect you more for asking for help than anything else.
And the older you are, the bigger the respect. Yeah. I didn't know it was that old, but yeah.
I said senior. I didn't say older. There's a difference.
Well, I can comment on your comment is that, and somebody like Carl Jensen as well, you're never too old to get lost. Anything can happen. I've seen videos, and actually I have it. Maybe I'll keep it for the next show. So, because when ATC actually helped a guy that became disorientated in the cloud, not getting lost, getting disorientated, because he wasn't an isolated guy, and he was losing his little picture, and he spoke up, and ATC, fortunately ATC was also a pilot, and he knew what the guy was going through, and he pep talked him through his AH and through his scans, and he brought him out of that weather. And that's how much it can help.
Amazing.
If you flight with a hand, if there's a hand reaching out, take it.
Yeah, amazing. So again, I mean, if there are any guys on here, I mean, even more senior guys who, I know in GA, a lot of people who actually don't like going into controlled airspace because they just, almost feel like they're being put under the magnifying glass and they're going to make mistakes and etc. I view it differently. I view it that in controlled airspace, you've always got Big Brother looking out for you and making sure that you're okay. But yeah, I think that's a brilliant message, guys. Just there's always someone out there willing to help and willing to ease your load and keep you focused. Focus, I think, is a very big part of it. Okay, so it's a pity we can have Santjie, but I think that would have probably been the overall message. So if you guys are happy, I know we only have got a couple of questions in, but we've got a couple of goodies to just proceed and start with that. What do you guys say?
It's good.
Okay, brilliant. So we've got a question from Brigitte who mailed in. She said, I would like to ask that the speaker, what the speakers think with regards to safety issues with pilots getting back to their jobs after COVID. Is there a risk that we will all go the extra mile for our companies and not call in unfit or sick if we in fact have a day where we feel under the weather? That's interesting.
And that's not under the Lawrence weather, right? That's the real weather.
Yeah, that's having a bad day, having, feeling a bit down and depressed that day. All these kind of things that that Ari and the guys at MayDay are exactly there to help you with. What's your thinking, guys? I've got my opinion, but maybe Ari, maybe we start with you, Cobus. You say your bit, and then I'll put in a bit of my opinion piece.
So I'm going to start off with something from our medical colleagues. Other diseases apart from COVID still exist. We still need to take them seriously. And if people think that there is a problem because one person isn't going to be able to get to work, they must see what sort of a problem is going to be caused if that person causes a major issue. And I think it's something that we need to guard against. We've all heard the stories of people who are not feeling well, get on an aircraft, potentially infect others if they happen to have COVID. Let's not be those people. Let's help each other by making sure that we listen to ourselves. And if we don't feel up to something, let's not do it. I think what Cobus covered was exactly right. I'm safe is perhaps the key checklist of all of the ones that we need to use. I know a lot of the newer aircraft with the G1000s and the Cirruses and that sort of aircraft, I'm safe comes up before every single flight, every time you power the aircraft on. The danger with that, I think, is that you get complacent and you just zoom through it. But to me, that's the most important checklist of the lot. If you're not up to it, don't do it. And that's mental wellness as well. A personal anecdote, I was off to the airport to fly a couple of weeks ago. I was 3 minutes away from the airport when a very large truck went past, lifted up half a brick that happened to be lying on the side of the road and took out my windscreen. And when I got to the airport, I was still pale and shaking because this thing came reasonably close to giving me a really bad day instead of just a broken windscreen. And I made the call not to fly, despite the fact that I really wanted to. Guys, there's nothing more important than being able to fly again. And they say that the 2 worst days for a pilot are when you go out to the aircraft, you know that it's your last flight. And the other worst day is when you go out to the aircraft and you don't know that it's going to be your last flight. Don't be one of those. Have the first, not the second.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, great. But that's a good call. You know, I've also done some of the things once or twice, and you know, I think that those kind of decisions you can be proud of yourself for making. You know, like it's there's always another day to be flying. You know, you can always have fun again. You can always go for that breakfast run again. You can, you know, so well done. Cobus, what's your take on that?
I quickly share the screen again.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Just want to show you something. That's about, is it there? It should be there, right? Remember last month we had, if you can get it quick, sorry, I thought it was on that slide, the perfect storm. And we got to this picture. Oh man, sorry about that. This will fly for food. And we discussed it. Now, firstly, Brigitte, she's from Copenhagen in Denmark at About Human Factors. So very welcome, Brigitte. I had the pleasure to meet her and Gita the other day working on collaborating on human factors. I think to answer the first thing, yes, the guys will do everything to go back into the air. What scares me is not the guy that will go extra mile for his company to get the job done. That's sort of more controlled. What is a problem is this guy will fly for food. We used to use it in jest. And many guys will go out there, they will go and fly anything, anywhere, anytime. Remember Air America? And that's the scary part. How's that going to sit in with safety? So unfortunately, that does come up, and a lot of guys will not go and report, not mentally, not going through any checklists and fly. And I'm not saying that's what happened in the recent past, but surely a food for thought. To get to the extra, the second part very quickly, and Ari, thanks for that. My question here as well was, sorry, I'll take this. Well, I'll leave it up and I'll give the screen back to you. Is that I'm doing 7 things at one time here.
Not a good thing for a guy.
You got it. Thanks, Franz. Is the question of I'm not feeling safe, and in discussion with Gigit as well, we call that the just cultures and how do people operate, even in Denmark, which is a first world country. Is the guy will go to his doctor and said, listen, will he go to his doctor and say, listen, doctor, I'm not feeling well. We're not even talking about COVID. It could be COVID, it could be mental well-being. And pilots especially not going to say, yes, I'm feeling a bit crazy today. Certainly you don't have to be crazy to fly, but it does help. The bottom line is if you get grounded now, which is the right thing to do, you're going to go on medication. Then you get your medication is finished, the doctor is happy. To get your medical back is a big issue, and it's a big issue in South Africa. I have friends that just given up after 2 years. Now, I remember I said last month as well, I'm threading on ice, but each case it's got its own merits. And that is where the just culture comes in. That's where culture comes in. If I do what I'm supposed to do, and I come back and I'm fine and I'm ready, and I get my medical back, everybody will do that. Now, I'm not saying that they're withholding the medicals. It's just very difficult to get your medical back. So that's my answer to those two, and it's very good questions because it certainly makes you think.
Yeah, so I mean, I've got a much bigger explanation to that, and I always feel like there's, and I'm always scared on these panels and etc. to voice my opinion too hard. Just because I've got such a strong opinion, especially from the insurance side of the insurance background. But I think that there's a culture issue, and it very much ties into what David Bardenhorst, one of my clients, just commented on. You're saying he thinks there's a big problems with us as South Africans. We are indoctrinated to always go to work, no matter how sick you are. It comes from the 100% school attendance mindset and the way we most of us were raised. So I think it all works in together. But so my thing is if and this is just hypotheticals, obviously, but if the core focus is on people, and if the core focus is on health and well-being and mental health of your pilots and of your employees, then where's the problem with them putting up their hands and saying, you know, I need a me day? You know, I'm sure you always open yourself up to people taking advantage, etc., etc. But then if you open yourself up to people taking advantage of it, then, you know, what's the use of the psychometrics then? Like, what's the use of everything else that's put in place to try and, you know, curb and prevent and get the exact right type of person in? And so, you know, for me, I think it's all based on maybe some cultural issues that will take, you know, generations to fix and overcome, or not. Maybe this COVID is exactly what we needed to take a step back and take mental health and your people's best interests and put that first again. You know, maybe that's the thing. So yeah, I think it's a cultural thing. I think it's also very much tied into a fear of, you know, losing your job, losing your medical. We all keep talking about losing your medical. We all keep talking about almost that worst case scenario. But unfortunately in aviation, it's something that happens, you know, a lot, all too often, way more than would happen to a lawyer, you know, or any other super professional. It'll happen way more often to pilots just for some small medical thing. I mean, it's not even necessarily needs to be something absolutely huge, but you've got insurance for that. You know, you've got guys like me that spent their lives building stuff to make it that's not an issue, that the financial impact shouldn't be a problem. So again, you know, it's almost like the two worlds need to somehow get together and align, and so that from a financial point of view, the mental health isn't affecting you as much. You know, that makes sense. So yeah, that's a good one, and I think this is also one that we all going to have slightly different opinions, and we're all going to have a slightly different outlook on it. But ultimately, I think in our core, we all feel the same way about that.
Yeah, it's not. Nobody said it's going to be easy, huh?
Do we have any more? Let's go. Let's have a look here.
There's one from Connie, if you got that, Franz.
Okay, go for it. If you have it in front of you.
Yes, there's Connie Conradi, actually Guillaume, says right now. We started flying together 10 years ago, hey, Connie?
Nice.
At the Notte. And he said, what I suggested, would it like easy to put on the table, sorry, would like to put on the tables if we invite a flying friend, a pilot with current rating, to fly with us, and in a sort of a checklist in his hand, he usually start watching and checking me at the moment when I approach my craft or pre-flight before startup checking all the other checks, what to do, what to warn, etc. So it's very much like a pilot monitoring for yourself. And the checklist I've mentioned, is there sort of a list available to help us, especially the PPL aviators? Where can we and I get hold of such? I'll speak with Connie, but I don't know if the checklists I've mentioned tonight, there's the three, there's many more, but these are the three quite very intensive ones, which I'll forward to Connie anytime. And anybody that wants it, you got my email address. And also the best recommendation I can give you is what I gave to my son, and because I'm paying. And I said to him, go, if you haven't flown in so many months, go and fly with your instructor. Because they are trained to, they're current, they should be. If they're not current, obviously, yeah, who's looking after whom? And I think that's the best advice I can give. Go and fly with a current instructor.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've also seen at the clubs, I mean, I spent some time, we had a nice spot landing / fly in at Stellenbosch Airfield over the weekend. And there were a bunch of guys. I mean, you know, I kind of started up the conversation for a reason, but then a few of the guys were like, you know what, actually, it's a good idea. And it was a case of, hey, who wants to come fly with me? You know, let's check each other out. So maybe a good idea would be, you know, to go to the club or flying school or wherever it is that you're flying from, hang around there for half an hour, speak to some people. I bet you there's 99.9 chance if you just speak to a couple of guys. Someone's going to say, "Yeah, man, come, let's go. We all aviators. We all love flying. We all want to spend as much time in the air as possible. So it's maybe not a great idea to get someone with like 10 hours to go with you. It's probably not going to help much, but
we have one.
Someone who's got a little bit of experience, I think it'll be a great idea. Obviously, 100% agree with you, Cobus. Number one would be an instructor.
CRM principle number one: use your resources. Know your resources and use them. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, do we have any more questions, guys? If anyone watching wants to throw in a quick question, something you're thinking about now, as you can see, it's very informal. We're just sharing our opinions, chatting about some things. If you have a question or two, something you'd like to add, a suggestion, etc., you are more than welcome to quickly throw it in. Otherwise, Lauren, thank you very much. Ari, thanks for joining us again. Cobus, as always, massive insight. I can see in the way you present and things you talk about. You've been around the block. I love it. And Annelie and Neil, right back over to you. Thanks again, everyone, for joining. It's amazing, as always. We constantly get between, I'd say, 60, 70 to, I think we're 300-400 people on the one. It's a good constant stream of guys. It really means that you're all interested in safety and making yourselves ultimately better aviators and better human beings. And I think that's all we can do on Earth, just make yourself a little bit better every day. That's it from me. Thanks a lot. Annelie, Neil, over to you guys. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, Franz. Thanks for helping us.
Franz, thank you so much. What an amazing session that was. Another engaging, very thought-provoking. I was just chatting to Annelie privately now, and I was just saying, I'm not in aviation, but every single time I attend one of these webinars, there is something that I take from it. So just a big thank you to Lauren, Ari, Cobus. You guys are absolutely brilliant. You keep it real. And on behalf of Annelie and the whole AERO team, a big thank you for all of your efforts. Yes. To all the participants that are on the webinar tonight, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. I'm sure you've taken something from this, and look out for the next webinar that's coming soon. And as Annelie said earlier, head to the webinar, the AERO platform, and check out the previous webinars we've done. Annelie, is there anything that you'd like to add before we close?
I think also, if there are anyone with any more questions, I've posted my email address in the chat box. So send those questions through to me and I'll just share with the team. And they are, I must say, Cobus is extremely quick. I sent him an email earlier today, and I think about 10 minutes later, the answer came through. So
must be nice.
Yeah, he's amazing. Franz, take tips.
Retirement makes it easy too.
Yeah. But on that note, thank you, everybody. Thanks for taking the time. And most importantly, stay safe, look after yourselves and those around you. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Annelie. Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.